As Julian said, I'm just stepping in for Abraham. So I'm actually the Chief Revenue Officer for Group Business Solutions, so across all the markets. Previously, I was actually the General Manager for Trinidad and Tobago business, so heavily involved in Trinidad, but obviously heavily involved across the market. I've actually been in the industry coming up to 16, 17 years. So telecoms and digital TV and broadcasting is what I know. And I think we can all agree we've seen a rapid change within the industry and how we all operate and work currently due to COVID. So really looking forward to talking to everyone today. We try to avoid long and arduous PowerPoints, so it's more of a conversation and kind of throw some ideas out there and have a chat.
Sounds great, Liam. Well, let's make a start, Liam. Let's go straight into the presentation. Thank you. Yep.
So, yes, as discussed, we obviously want to talk around digital. Obviously, the catchphrase of digital or die. As I would have said, I think COVID has created a lot of problems for people, but at the same time, I think we've seen great transformation and adoption of the new digital technology and new ways of working and new ways of operating in the current environment. And for me, I think that gives us great confidence that I think now as governments and corporate entities within the region, we see new opportunities and new chances to kind of change how we operate. Abe was going to talk about himself. That's what Abe looks like there in the back, and obviously quite a large family. So we'll skip through that. What I do want to talk about, obviously, we have a very strong and energetic team here in Digicel as well, who's very, very passionate about digital and kind of changing the way we work. This would have been kind of a pre-COVID photograph. Obviously, because there's no social distancing in it, but still we try and kind of collaborate and do as much as possible through video now within the organization. There is a very sobering reality. I think we've obviously seen now that technology integration is key for our survival in governments and businesses across the region. The volume and the quantity of people who are now working from home due to the current pandemic has rapidly increased, and the reliance on infrastructure and broadband services is now more important than ever. We have seen a great development and people embracing e-commerce, and we see this as something as the Caribbean region taking ownership and taking hold of within all markets and all countries to try and develop and change that whole kind of economy piece. Leisure and social activities have all clearly changed. In different countries we have different restrictions, but we can see globally no fans and no people at the stadium has left supporters feeling more distant and separated from the teams that they're very passionate about. Cricket and football being core to that. So we're seeing a real change now of how we get people to engage with teams and sporting activities remotely. I think we've seen a huge adoption and kind of planning towards cloud solutions. Someone who's obviously been heavily involved on the kind of business solution side, we always caveat the cloud has always existed and has existed for quite a long time in our industry, for nearly 20 years. But now I think we're seeing it's much more cost effective, it's much more well developed. I think the benefits for different countries is huge. It allows us the ability to remote work, secure data, and be more protective of our information is quite invaluable. And then customers themselves. So how do our customers interact with us? How they interact with you? How they interact with governments and everything is becoming a lot more digital. So, being able to apply for your driver's license online, be able to do your tax online, incorporate a business online are becoming more and more important as we kind of move forward. Just give me 2 seconds. So normal versus the new normal. As I said, we're all sitting back now in our houses and offices, watching football from a distance or cricket from a distance. So it is changing quite rapidly. And how do we effectively keep pace with this is all part of that. As Digicel as a large entity, We're always trying to innovate and change. So this is something we've put a lot of effort in around our digital ecosystem. So through applications and through digital applications, we're trying to reach customers and allow customers ultimately reach what they're interested in, whether it's sport, whether it's normal news and TV, whether it's information. So allowing them adapt in the digital world. I think obviously, you know, in Digicel, what we've also learned is, you know, concerts and media, there's such a big restriction around how many people can kind of work and entertain within this space. Obviously, we try to do a lot around live concerts and trying to, you know, bring the viewers closer to artists and closer to that type of industry. And we see this as an opportunity for multiple types of business, and a whole change is going to be required in that space for the next 12 and 24 months. But I think it will get people closer to that type of industry. I think we can learn from this and adapt it and use it into other spaces. I think one of the biggest things we've learned as a business as well, and what we try to share to people, is obviously the working from home. You know, Digicel, even in Trinidad, has over 1,000 employees who would have been in multiple office locations at any different time. But because of COVID, we obviously couldn't support that. So we implemented very quickly. We're actually within a 48 to 72 hour period, we moved over 400 people in our call center to working remotely from home. So our major priority was not sacrificing our customer experience or how we work with our customers, but at the same time protecting our staff and making sure they were protected against COVID as well. So we've implemented a very strong work from home policy and remote working, depending on the job functions. And actually what we see is there's a huge benefit from a personal life and a working life for certain people in certain roles to look to continue that. And we're actually building out and developing a strategy around having remote working and work from home policies in place for the foreseeable future, even after the pandemic. I think what we find is, you know, we also have to work with our employees to find that work-life balance. As much as I think we've seen productivity has gone up, and we talk to our other corporate clients, they've seen the same, or, you know, the productivity is maintained. We also need to be aware that there's a lot more different pressures and stress that comes to our staff because of a pandemic. So what we try to do is kind of obviously work with our HR teams and lighten the mood and try and put time slots in for different departments to have some downtime or have some fun with other people through video. And obviously we try and look at kind of maintaining a level of productivity, but not overly stressing and putting too much pressure on people as well. I think when we look at the digital media landscape, I think, you know, the tradition of, you know, walking up to a news agent or walking up to a shop has become difficult. You know, within our digital ecosystem, obviously we use Loop, which is our digital media channel, and we've seen a huge push towards that level of information. And what we try and do is work within the local markets to make sure we capture as much local information, share as much local news as possible and as fast as possible. I think when we're working in a pandemic or a crisis, I think that's really important. But we also see this as an opportunity for other businesses and other governments and people personally to start sharing information and getting information out there at a greater volume. When we look at CANTO, obviously we're very proud and very excited to work with CANTO. Obviously, you know, we're looking at the different events and how Digicel can add different value and different experience. You know, I think it's about sharing information. It's also sharing, you know, case studies. Digicel is a large business. It's a global business. And we've learned a lot through the pandemic, and we've learned a lot over the last few years. I think our role is to share that information with others to see what can be done. I also think it's about pushing the boundaries. You know, it's showing that we can, as kind of companies and governments, as people, drive a different level of change within our markets and across the region. I think we've seen great collaboration with some of the countries through the pandemic, and this gives us great hope that we can use that level of collaboration to also drive change across the markets, whether that's in digital, whether that's in commerce, you know, whether that's in kind of financing structures, etc. I think that's a huge opportunity. I think, and obviously for, you know, for telecoms and for large tech companies, I think digital is the only way forward now. I don't think we're going to revert backwards. I think if anything, companies like ourselves are going to go after this space a lot more, try and add a lot more value. I think the digital world is only going to get bigger. And I think key to that is making sure we govern it correctly, make sure we work with the regulators and the countries in place to make sure we protect people's information. And also, while we empower governments and corporations to make decisions off data, we're making sure that we never forget that there is people involved in that space as well. And I think that's the role of telcos and governments and CANTO, is to make sure we don't lose sight of that as well. And ultimately, I think our customer lives have changed. So we have to learn how our customers are now behaving, how they're operating and how they're working within their space. And I think that's our role, is to understand that, build a strategy and a plan to support that, and then share that with other companies and governments to try and learn and develop new plans within the marketplace. One thing we've been looking at with our customers is, who are our customers? What are their real core interests? Obviously, within the Digicel space, we have 8 core apps as part of our ecosystem now, which is obviously targeting music, which is targeting protecting and storing personal data. Our news from Loop, and BIP from our communication standpoint. But key to that is also understanding where our customers are, even when they're not moving around. Where do they spend most of their time online? So what are they actually interested in versus making a decision based on perception, is all key to try and solve their problems, and putting the structures in place to do so. Digicel, so how do, looking back, as I said, on our experience and how we become a digital operator. So as a digital operator, we've all gone into digital because the customers are all in digital, and it's our job to meet them where they are effectively. So we need to play within that digital space, because that's where all our customers are. For us, it's no longer about minutes and megabytes. As a digital operator, we believe in 1440 minutes of a digital experience. So that's every day, all day, because that's how our customers work. So day or night, they're always interacting online. And this is ultimately where we believe our new frontier is, and our future as a digital operator is. So as I said, within the music space, Play Go for TV, Sportsmax. The region is very big into sports across the Premiership and across cricket. So making sure customers can reach that content wherever they are. BIP from a communication standpoint. So being able to communicate with friends and family through video and voice, but even a lot more than that as well. So offering translation services so that people can interact with different languages without the fear of not understanding it. And also using the platform as a communications tool outwards. So marketing companies, retail companies, governments using this as a way to inform people of urgent information or promotions or what's centric to their business. Loop, Go Loud, Billow by Digicel. Once again, it's all about creating that ecosystem that ultimately solves problems for customers. So from a My Digicel app, making sure you get information around your bills, making sure you can pay online. Billow, that you can store your private information versus leaving it as paperwork on your desk at home or in your office, is all critical to the way we go forward. Adopting digital in solving customer problems. One, seamlessly migrating company operations to work from home while ensuring uninterrupted customer service was critical over the last couple of months. We created online and digital avenues for customers to safely pay their bills remotely so they could stay connected. And I see this as something a lot of companies and institutions will have to do over the next coming months. Ensure adequate service and coverage during pandemic by using data to adapt changes in customer usage patterns. So from a network provider, what we saw nearly a 40 to 50% increase in utilization on our network services, primarily driven by the fact that so many people were stuck at home. But not only were they stuck at home, their children were at home, their wife or their husband was at home trying to work and educate online as well. So thankfully, we'd already pre-planned for different events where capacity had to be increased. But we also saw a change in our customer patterns and how our network needed to perform and needed to make change very quickly. We also shifted towards online marketing to keep customers educated on offers, as less people are listening to radio, or less people are moving around getting access to traditional media. So we moved towards an online space because that's ultimately where our customers are now playing. I think if you're still in doubt about switching to digital, I think a couple of the quick stats are very, very simple. 40% of all technology spending will go towards digital transformation. I think we've seen that in multiple markets, and it's only getting larger. 56% of CEOs say digital improvements have led to increased revenues. I definitely think that's something, we've spoken to a lot of the large banks and a lot of the large kind of consumer-based businesses, and they're now seeing the need for digital space as an avenue to increase their revenues. 23% digitally mature companies are more profitable. So I think that's something, we will see increased over the coming months as more companies mature into this space. And I think the key to this is leaning on other digital companies like Digicel or other companies that are already playing within that space. And then digital first companies are 64% more likely to achieve their business goals than their peers. So all our customers and all our people are now within this space. So the companies that move and accelerate into digital will ultimately be very successful within business. I think finally, I think it's about being bold. I think as different institutions and different companies, we need to make bold decisions and be willing to take a level of risk and try new things. I think we have to be brave and trust in the people who work for us and the direction we're going. I think ultimately we have to embrace digital now. I think as governments and corporations, this is the space we need to play in. This can help people and move countries forward, and it also makes us much more global and enters it into a different space of how we work across a global society as well. If we don't do that, I think ultimately we have the potential to become irrelevant or lose pace, and I don't think that's something any of us could ultimately afford. And I would like to say thank you very much. I was going to play one video, Julian, which is kind of like how the medical industry works. Colin, I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, if you...
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So the video I'm going to play is something Digicel has been working in, which is the kind of telemedicine space. So during the pandemic, one thing we've realized is, the influx and flow of people unfortunately going into the hospitals. However, the medical industry has been changing for the last few years. So how do they interact with patients? How do doctors remotely manage the type of situations they are? So I'm just going to play the video and we can kind of open it up to the floor after.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm not hearing any sound.
It's not coming through, is it? So, hang on. Okay. Let's try this again.
Got 3 PI after a transplant, and we're going to take good care of it.
Babies' hearts are like snowflakes. They're never the same. And so they present a unique challenge. Citrix is now a daily part of my life. They're the engine that's running my information systems. When someone calls me and says, this patient is sick, what should we do? I need information about that patient. I need data. It used to be extremely difficult to get that information.
All right, Christy, here we go.
People's lives are literally at stake here.
All right, we're going to make an incision.
I want to be with my family when they need me, but I don't want to leave my patients unprotected. Citrix technology enables me to access critical patient information anywhere, anytime, on any web-enabled device. We have an obligation as physicians to push forward with technology because We still can't cure everyone. My babies are the most important thing in my life. When I prepare to operate, I think of my children lying in bed at home. And I know how much of a life that child could have if he or she lives.
Okay.
Liam.
So over to you, Julian.
So thank you very much, Liam, for stepping in and presenting on behalf of Abraham. I really appreciate that. Thanks a million. So let me just say to our audience, feel free to drop any questions on the chat. Liam's here and he'll be able to answer any questions. So Liam, let's continue the conversation. And so, of course, Digicel have launched Trinidad and Tobago, Digicel Trinidad and Tobago have launched a number of new digital services recently. And you've alluded to some of there's about 8 new services, I think, that you showed there. But maybe you can explain why the need to pivot into becoming a digital operator versus a mobile operator. What do you see as the main reason for that?
Yeah, I think the main reasons behind that is, one, that's where our actual customers are interacting and kind of living their lives. So they're now more than ever, people are living within the digital space. So how they communicate with their families, whether it's remotely within a country or outside a country, how they share information. A lot of it has been passed through digital mediums. How they access information, whether it's from a government or a corporation, is through digital medium, particularly at the start of the lockdowns that we would have experienced in markets. We would have seen that people are restricted. But Digicel was on this digital journey quite a few years ago. So what happened really was COVID accelerated a lot of it, but ultimately we'd started this plan and move as a digital operator to create an ecosystem for our customers that they could live and enjoy everything that they wanted to do. So, you know, as mobile operators and as a technology company, we need to continuously innovate. And this move to the digital world will allow us to innovate even more as we learn what our customer needs are and how they want to actually interact. And ultimately, that's our role. Provide the platform and the ability for our customers to kind of live their life and work and operate in that space.
Yeah, and I particularly like one of the new services, BIP. I find BIP to be, because it can pick, you know, it does very similar to the WhatsApp or you know, various services like that. But it gives a different angle. I think you can actually translate into different languages. You can, and I think it can do. Maybe you could talk a little bit about BIP.
No, absolutely. I think, you know, when you look at the traditional services, and I call WhatsApp a traditional service because it's been around that long, it's become second nature to everyone.
Yes.
But I think for BIP, what we really wanted to do was create not just a messaging platform. So yes, you can send messages either way, you can send media content. But actually what we wanted was a communications platform that lived in the hand of the user. So not only can you have conversations with someone from a different country in English, but you can have different conversations with people who speak different languages. So whether it's Spanish, whether it's French, whether it's German, etc., you can still have a conversation with someone that you might be interacting with in their language and your language seamlessly without any gaps in technology. So it automatically translates it into your language. I think for us as well, within that ecosystem, within BIP, you can also sign, you know, you can log on or put in favorites around news information, content from companies, you know, that you want to receive promotions from. So whether it's insurance, whether it's a retail store. So it becomes a very much a consumer ecosystem of information. It's not just one-way information. It's not just messaging. It's actually a lifestyle app, which allows you kind of dictate and manage what you're interested in versus just WhatsApping someone.
Indeed, and I wonder how this new digital push actually improves the lives of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and indeed the Caribbean. What are your thoughts on that, Liam?
From improving people's lives, I think digital has a huge part to play in it. You know, I think obviously we're all very excited to hear the news over the last week or two that certain companies have vaccines coming. But I think ultimately, you know, we still have a way to go until globally we're comfortable for people to move around again. So when it comes to saving lives and improving people's lives, you know, not putting people at risk is the biggest thing. So, you know, can someone at home, regardless of their age, regardless of their technology ability, can they access information online? Can they bank online? Can they shop online? Can they order their groceries? You know, can they have a video call with their family who might live in a different part of the island versus having to travel and interacting themselves? When schools reopen in January or February, with a percentage of children, you know, children unfortunately, you know, can be like sponges. And you know, you don't want to risk your grandparents or elderly people to children. So can you still do a video?
That's right.
So I really think the digital piece has a huge part to play in protecting people, mitigating the risks that exist. When I look at the medical industry itself, and that's why we showed that video, you know, the ability for a doctor or an A&E doctor to assess someone remotely has now become more important than ever. Telemedicine is a infrastructure and future proofing for crises like this. You know, you no longer need to have 100 people queuing up outside an A&E waiting for something that can be done over a video and can be done with particular medical equipment in remote clinics. So that's something, you know, we're really keen to try and share and show that technology is out there. And we're obviously, personally, we're working with the government here in the Ministry of Health around testing some of this to change the landscape.
And you mentioned working with some of our other stakeholders, the regulators, the government. How are you finding that in Trinidad and Tobago? Are we getting the support? Because as we try to evolve to becoming a digital operator, us as operators, I think we need help. Are we getting that support to help us move forward?
No, absolutely. I think, you know, we have a very good relationship with TAS here in Trinidad and Tobago. You know, we had a call to action to TAS when the pandemic really kicked off during the first lockdown. As we put in the presentation, we saw our network requirements increase dramatically because so many people were online, educating online, contacting people online. You know, we need spectrum, which is kind of part of the lifeblood of our telecoms business. And TAT rapidly gave short-term allocation of spectrum, which now we have in place for quite a while. You know, they increased their 700 megahertz requirements. It allowed us increase our network speeds and our network reach. And I have to say the regulator sees the long-term vision here of, you know, mobile technology and fiber technology is now as key as your water and your electricity. It is effectively how you operate in your life. And the regulator has a clear plan with us, not just with us, but and I have to commend them on this, with the other telcos in the market, to drive 5G, drive digital adoption, increase the speeds that are available on the island, and ultimately make sure everyone can access broadband and internet services from anywhere within the island. I think that's a key agenda that needs to be achieved over the next couple of months.
Right, now that's really great to hear that you're getting the support from TAT and government. That's excellent. In fact, a few months back, we actually had Minister West as our guest speaker, and it was a delight to speak to her. And you know, she's really, when you talk about the digital economy, I found she really has that vision. So it's really good to see that you're getting the support in Trinidad and Tobago. Liam, if you don't mind, we are getting some questions coming in, so I'd like to, perhaps I could just ask a few of those. This is from my friend Kim Malanu. I would like to ask Liam to share with us the specific technologies Digicel is using or considering using to facilitate service to underserved areas, signal boosters, long-range Wi-Fi, TVWS, microcells, etc. Any thoughts on that, Liam?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one challenge all telcos, not just in Trinidad, experience is that last 10% of your network. There are, very remote areas and difficult areas. However, and this is what comes back to the regulator and governments, and I know Minister Alison West has a clear agenda that we want to reach 100% connectivity. From a technology standpoint, we obviously have quite a large and robust pure fibre network, but we have a very large mobile network. Where we see underserved areas or areas where we can't reach with fibre, we do look at microcells, we look at signal boosters within our network to reach those areas, using a simple thing like a MiFi device, which is basically a mobile internet device versus your phone. And what we really need to do, and what we're pushing the regulator, is to give more spectrum so we can actually give guaranteed aggressive speeds within those underserved areas that are almost as similar to broadband on fibre. So from our side, that's an investment we have been making, and we're willing to keep making, and working with government to try and reach everybody now with these plans. I think one project we would have done here very recently was actually with TAF and TSDT, where we joined up together to provide 10,000 tablets and connectivity to students within Trinidad and Tobago. And the whole purpose of that was, a lot of these children might be in areas where broadband's not available, or it's economically not viable for them as a family. So the government and ourselves as the telcos came together to try and drive that.
So you actually joined up with TAT and TSTT to provide that. I mean, that's I mean, that's really amazing. That is really amazing. And I think probably, if we're talking about getting to these areas which are hard to reach, we need to do something different, and perhaps we need to look at collaboration going forward. But I think excellent, and it's nice to see things moving ahead there in Trinidad and Tobago. Got Kieran Rose here, and he's asking about BIP. Will BIP allow for the facilitation of sending money through the application in the near future?
So yeah, on the digital roadmap, there's definitely, we're looking at how money can be sent to other people and shared within that space. Whether it's through BIP or its own private app, that's something we're working on developing very, very quickly. As people would know, in Trinidad and Tobago, only just at the turn of the government there, they passed the law to start introducing e-money and e-commerce.
Yes.
And obviously we would have been involved with different agencies within Trinidad and Tobago around that. So yes, in short, our plan is to start offering applications and within the digital space to share and send money regardless of the location.
I think that's a really good question. The thing is as well, we know, like in some of our operations in Haiti, we actually have money transfer and been there for a number of years, and that's going quite well. So we've got the experience with that. But of course, it depends on the environment. If the regulatory environment's in place, then us as operators, we can actually move forward with that. So let me just pick up another question here from Emerald Gould. Are your services scalable for small and macro enterprises that want to transition from exclusive brick and mortar to capitalize on the new digital business environment, but consider upfront costs restrictive? That's quite a question. It's a great question. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very hot topic at the moment. The answer is yes. So the great thing about the digital world and cloud and all this type of space is it is very scalable, both upwards and downwards, right? So a small micro business can access digital infrastructure exactly the same way a large bank like an RBC or Digicel can. The great thing about it is it's cost out at a per user level or what your requirement is. You don't need to go out and buy some big digital platform as a small SME to operate within this space. You can now obviously work in apps. You can align your business to that, and all you ultimately need is broadband, a mobile phone, security services. And when I talk security, I talk around cyber security to protect your business. So that's actually something Digicel, as we moved as a digital operator on the consumer side. Within the business world, we've actually created and built packages for the micro businesses and the SME customers that protects their business and provides them a platform to grow their business and generate new revenue. You know, I saw a brilliant example of a retail clothes store at the moment who's operating in digital world by doing fittings and showcasing all through video. So they don't need the customers in the store anymore. They're actually reaching their customers through video and payment online and everything. And it's increased their business revenue. So we have those applications, we have those services, and we've tried to make it as cost effective as possible without this heavy installation and infrastructure cost at the start.
Excellent. Let me just, we've actually only got 4 minutes left, Liam. Time flies when you're having fun, but I just wanted to ask you, what's Digicel been doing to assist in the effects of COVID in Trinidad? Are there specific things that Digicel has been able to do to help consumers with the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we've tried to give as much data and as much services so that they can consume and do a lot more of what they do on a day-to-day basis online. I think second of all, we've been quite structured and positive around payment online. You know, as much as we want people to visit our stores, you know, during COVID, we want to make sure we have the right HSAC policies in our stores, but ultimately we want customers to interact online, pay their bills online, and mitigate against interaction with people, because we know that makes a difference.
Exactly.
I think, you know, we also try and share as much information outwardly from Digicel. You know, so if, and it does happen if there's an outage in a certain area, letting our customers know, and also beefing up our customer experience and customer support side, because ultimately customers now are operating in different value perspective. So we've increased our call center staff, we've increased the time and the volume they work at. We've also used digital platforms in our call centers, such as chatbots, and information live. So customers don't necessarily have to go to a call center agent. They can now get that information or raise a ticket or an issue directly in that space.
Right, so basically that we can operate in a remote world, trying to make it more easier for our customers. Let me ask you just one final question, and you know, I worked in Digicel Trinidad for 10 years. So I still know a lot of the staff there. And how's the Digicel staff, how have they been in Trinidad and Tobago? You know, how have they been handling the challenge of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think amazingly well. I think the big thing for us as leaders within the company, and I don't just speak for me or Abraham, but I speak for the full leadership team at different levels, is the energy and the culture that we have in Digicel. We're a very innovative company. Obviously, we like to talk to our customers quite a lot in big apps, and we need people to have that energy internally. You know, obviously, we don't get to see as much as our teams as possible or as we would like. We know culturally, and Trini's will explain this better than I would, but it's a very social-based economy as such. We like to interact, we like to shake hands, we like to go for a lime.
Yeah.
So what we
like to hug.
We like to hug. So we've tried to bridge that gap by doing a lot more video interaction with our teams. We've encouraged different teams to reach out to other teams and do video calls. You know, whether you're having a coffee online, whether you're having a drink online. We also, as management, put a clear structure in the communication. So we communicate with email updates on a weekly basis around COVID and the overall business. We also do a monthly and quarterly update with the different management teams and the feet and the direct sales teams and all that. So we continuously try to keep communicating. And I think that's the big thing of COVID that we all learned within the industry is communication is critical. We need to talk to our staff. We need to support them. we need to understand that they're not just managing a job, they're also managing children or elderly people at home, which is added pressure. So your work and life almost become one at the moment. So we really are passionate in HR now about separating that out, making sure people have time to turn off. You know, we try and restrict sending emails or communications late at night. So there's little things we've tried to do to ease the pressure and support our staff during the current period.
Liam, it's 11 o'clock now, so thank you very much for sharing your time with us at this very short notice. I actually really enjoyed the conversation with you and giving your interesting perspective. So thank you very much. To our audience, please feel free to contact CANTO. Let us know the topics that you want to talk about in future. We'll be more than happy to take those suggestions. So let me just say, our next webinar is Tuesday, the 1st of December at 10 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, where we will discuss a Caribbean case of disaster recovery and business continuity. And we've got some great speakers. The first chap there is my old friend who I've known for many years, Stephen Curran, Chief Technical Officer of Cable Bahamas. And I can tell you, he's a very knowledgeable chap, very technical, and he'll have a great perspective. We've also got Richard Rendicop, who I think is on this webinar as well, who's the Account Executive Business Development for SaskTel International. And we've got a third speaker, Peter Dang, who's also on this webinar, who is the Wireless Network Planner for SaskTel Technology Division. So that's next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Just remains for me to say thank you, everybody. Work from everywhere, stay safe and stay connected. Take care.